Great. Welcome to the August 2025 Blue Ribbon Sister City Committee meeting. Do we take attendance first?
Actually, I had a request from Jeff McMenemy, who watches lots of our meetings, as we all know. And he said that if all committees could please just quickly go around the table and identify themselves, it would make his job and presumably our residents' jobs a whole lot easier. So.
All right.
Interesting. Sure. Yes, Christine Fries, Library Director and City Representative on this committee.
Bob Sullivan, I'm functionless in society at the moment. Oh, committee member.
I'm Chair, City Council Representative Rich Blaylock.
Stephanie Secord, Public Information Officer, and here on the committee as part of the Japan America Society of New Hampshire.
Mary Carey Foley, daughter of Mayor Eileen Foley.
Robert Conrad, citizen of Portsmouth.
All right, thank you, everyone. And we're missing Steve Chinosi and Ben Van Camp this afternoon. Please someone be able to join us. All right, so first on the agenda, we have some old business. We have the update on the Sister City Fund and next steps. Shoot over to Bob Sullivan.
Well, Christine and I have diligently attempted to advance the idea of creating a Sister Cities Trust, which you'll remember is necessary because the framework for municipal finance in New Hampshire is that so that the tax rate will accurately reflect the cost of running the city, all money is supposed to be raised and spent in the same year. And there are rare exceptions. The trust is one of these exceptions. So we were trying to find one of those rare exceptions so that we could have an ongoing trust that this committee primarily could use to, buy dinner for visiting foreign dignitaries and, small things like that. And it was not ever expected to hold a great amount of money. The trustees pointed out to Christine and I a number of objections to our ideas. They were technical objections, they were legal objections, and in one instance, they were a policy objection concerning who would be able to authorize expenditures from the trust and how much process would be necessary to get money from the trust. So we're not making a lot of progress and have come up therefore with a workaround to this problem of being unable to create the trust that we had spoken about. And the workaround is this. It came from my discussions with people in the city's finance department. And we do not have to go to the trustees. We do not have to create a trust. And yet we could still hold money beyond the end of a fiscal year if it is determined by the finance department to be a special revenue fund. A special revenue fund will be created when someone chooses to give money to the city for use by or expenditure by the trust, by the Sister Cities Committee. The advantages of the Special Revenue Fund are that it's very quick to set up. The person donating the money gets to determine entirely what the terms and conditions and process will be for spending that money. So we can go back to our idea that we had of basically the city manager would authorize expenditures from this, if that's what the donor of the money agreed to, and I think they would. So those are the main advantages of this special revenue fund approach. The disadvantages of the special revenue fund approach is it has to be repeated for every single donation. And therefore, it cannot operate the way a trust would have been able to, whereby people could just make contributions to the Sister City Trust. You know, if Massimo decided we were gonna be bringing people from Italy and he wanted to help us out, he could give that trust money. He would not be able to do that with the special revenue account. He would have to make a separate donation with special terms and conditions. Now, the special revenue account still does require city council approval because it in effect is a donation to the city. But the donor of the funds would say to the city, I'm giving you X amount of dollars if you agree that here's how you will spend it. And here's how you will spend it are determined by the donor, the person who gives the money. Spend it only on things which the city manager says are in keeping with the spirit and planning of the Sister City Committee and its goals. Could be as simple as that. Or it could be more complicated depending on what the donor wants to put in there and what the city council is willing to accept. But I think we are actually pretty much ready to proceed with this. The next step would be to find a donor, and as you know, I think there is one out there waiting to give some money to the Sister City Committee, and preparing a letter from that person to the city, indicating an intent to donate the money into a special revenue account, and that it be used for X, 1, 2, 3, whatever the donor says it'll be used for. And then the city council accepts that. The city takes the money. They will pay it out in accordance with the terms and conditions created by the donor. And we could start working on that new approach rather than the trust account approach tomorrow, if that's what the committee wants us to do. And we would identify a donor and start in that direction.
So each donor has to set up these definitions.
Yeah.
But if Massimo, to use your example, wanted to donate $1,000 to be used for the Sister City Committee goals related to Sant'Arcangelo, could it be as simple as that? And if next week we need to pay for a reception for the students and a month later the mayor is coming, could we draw on Massimo's money? Is that perpetual? Or
Depends entirely on the terms and conditions that Massimo would set out in that situation.
okay,
Now, there's a huge advantage of anyone going through the city, either as a trust or a special revenue account, is that donations to a city are tax deductible. And so would assist in bringing in funds.
so it sounds like the donor letters can be encouraged to be as broad as possible.
And my further thinking is this: with the first donor, we will set up the terms and conditions that the Sister City Committee likes and will work for us. And then with the second, third, and fourth donors, we could just refer back to the first one.
Right.
So they'll all have the same terms and conditions, and it'll be simple
Mhm.
and can work smoothly.
But they could theoretically, so if Massimo, picking on poor Massimo, but where
He's a good guy. He
He
won't
is a
mind us. He won't mind us.
he says, I want to give money and I would like it used particularly for Sant'Arcangelo, right? And then I decide to give money and I say, I really want this to be used for Carrick-Fergus visits. We can just tweak it and make the first one a kind of template
For sure.
and then just tweak it to say, particularly of interest to me are visitors to and from Carrick-Fergus. or
Yes, we
something
could do
like
that.
Okay.
And then we keep an inventory, if you will, of all of these donations.
Right.
So that when somebody wants to do something for Sant'Arcangelo, we say, oh yeah, Massimo's money would apply to this, instead of having just one big fund that is broadly sister cities, and that actually,
Yeah, I mean, that is the kind of the disadvantage of it, but
it works.
you know, we were not getting anywhere
Yeah.
working with the trust.
But if I wanted to donate and said, this is for any new programming done by the Sister Cities Committee, it could be, we're, trying to reach out to our friends in Morocco. Right, I don't have to specify that it has to be for a particular
but
sister city and it
The
could be-
control will be the city manager.
Mhm.
Any expenditure would have to be approved by the city
Right.
manager.
and it
that-
would be,
That'll make sure that, the sister city committee is not spending their money to take us all to New York City for a lovely weekend. Which actually did happen with the earlier committee for a different purpose. So the control is the city manager, and that's the way I propose to set it up.
then finance would run us a report annually or something and say,
It
this
would
is
be-
what's in
it-
your,
Public record, every minute of
Hell.
every day for anybody.
like, funds are.
Constantly have it.
Can a template be created that essentially has three boxes? One is very general, like you mentioned, just for the better of the committee, of the sister city committee as we sit fit in agreement with the city manager. One is specific to a town or city or interest, and then just another,
Yeah.
the other box that is other. And then they write something there that is of importance to them, and then they can check whatever box they like, including
Yes.
the other.
Simple answer to the question is yes.
Options.
Do you think it would be worth listing all of our sister cities, even though some of them are less active than others? Or do you think that's more limited? You can make an argument both ways.
I think,
Because if it's assigned to a sister city that we never hear from, then
Yeah.
that money is tied up.
Yeah, that would not be.
well, so the controls are, first, the donor is gonna tell you what their money is allowed to be spent for.
Right,
Second, the city manager has to make a determination that is in fact being spent for that purpose. And so I think that protects.
but if it says, I only want this money spent for Ghana, because, my cousin went
Well,
there.
An example the trustees gave us as to a problem with the trust is that suppose some wealthy person wanted to take a vacation in Italy. And they say they gave money to the Sister Cities Committee. And then the Sister Cities Committee then used that money to pay for that person to take a vacation in Italy. That person would have gotten
Deductible.
their vacation in Italy tax deductible.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of problem we would deal.
But in terms of sister cities that are less active, obviously, we're gonna be having conversations with any of these donors, so. Explaining what cities have more dynamic relationships and what our needs are is part of the dialogue, so.
Well, and other trusts that we've got that I've seen,
Who would I go to get birth certificate?
end of the hall and to your right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Some of the ones that I've seen in our trusts are, they state a preference for something like, for anything that the committee might want to use this for. And by the way, I loved my junior year abroad in Morocco. Right, so we would know their desires, but we
Mhm.
wouldn't be hogtied by their
Yeah.
choice.
I mean, like Bob said, if the first donor, or if made it, so on my donation, I just wanna donate to keep with the spirit and goals of the Sister City Committee. And they didn't specify any country, they didn't specify gifts or reception, then it would be up to the city manager to decide.
Well, first it will be up to city council to accept,
Okay, yep,
then to the city manager.
okay.
Would they have to accept every donation?
Yes.
Just the first one?
We have, the way we have it set up, every donation to the city has to be voted on and accepted by the city council.
Okay,
But they don't, unlike what
Even
we
if it's
have with
$5.
trustees, they don't have to approve every expenditure.
okay,
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and we wouldn't have to vote.
got it. So that's just an every 2-week thing, assuming they're pouring in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I like to think that a long line will
Yes.
form of people who wanna give money to the Sister City Committee.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch.
But I
the
don't
minutes,
really
I won't.
expect it.
So
You
yeah,
heard it.
I was a little disappointed that, they couldn't just make a trust fund and then have a stipulation, this can't be paid for by the, this can't pay for a trip by the donor, for the donor, and make a tax deductible trip. But it sounds like they didn't wanna go that direction, and if we're getting stalemated there, I would entertain a motion to create the special revenue fund and start working.
How about this as a start? Authorize us to solicit a proposal
Yeah.
to the special revenue fund, which we would then bring back to you.
Okay.
To make sure you like it. And if you like it, the donor will of course like it by that time.
Yeah.
We'll send it off to the city council.
So motion to write a proposal to create a special revenue fund.
Using
Be
the
approved
donor
by
that
this
we know
committee.
is already out there.
Okay, to be
Does
used.
someone want to make
by-
that motion?
As Christine finishes her thought in her
Yeah.
sentence,
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Stefan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. I think this is a good idea. I appreciate the work that you guys have done on this. Sorry, it was so annoying with the trust fund. Are there any other discussion on this subject?
There's nothing in this says we can't, years from now, when the money is pouring in, go back and talk to the trustees. And
That's
True.
so I think this is a good start because I'm with you. I don't think there will be hundreds of people lining up, but if there are,
Yeah.
we have other alternatives.
And I'm very sure the trustees would welcome us back to talk some more.
Yeah. And we can just put an ongoing agenda item on city council.
Yeah.
Just, tell Kelly to copy it that just says,
Yeah.
proposal to create a special revenue account.
I think this accomplishes the goals that we originally had, to have a way for people to donate money to purposes of the Sister City Committee, and then have those donations be tax deductible for the donor. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right.
I have one more question on that, if I may, it's not about that though, but with existing monies that we have.
Yeah.
Whatever we have as a balance, does that will stay then with,
That too is determined entirely by the donor, and the city council's acceptance of the donor's proposal.
Are you talking about the monies?
I'm
we
talking about
already
existing balance we already have.
Set up
Oh,
for.
Can we
The-
trans,
don't-
The ambassadors trust.
That is not a trust that you control in any sense.
Yeah.
okay,
It's one of the trustees of the
It's
trust.
trust, but it's not one that is available to you.
There was 54,000 in it, I believe, last time I checked.
for money to be used by us and.
Not,
That was
not by
not
us.
to be
not
used
by,
by you.
we're not an ambassador. That was the problem.
Yeah.
That was
That
why
was
we,
set up-
that was why we started this effort to create our trust fund that we could use.
Okay,
Cause that was set up by, to be only used by an ambassador, and none of us are an ambassador to
The
Portsmouth.
the original visitors from Nichinon gave, I believe it was $10,000 to a trust fund that got set up basically for Mayor Foley to determine how it gets spent.
So the only sister city funds are a line item in the mayor's budget, which is $1,000 or $1,500 or something, which pays, I think the annual membership for Sister City International alone is $400. So,
Yeah, so, I mean, going into our next item, the Nichinon visit, I reached out to the mayor. He said he would be willing to pay for the clocks out of the mayor's fund. And then I told him that Mary Kay Foley, that you were gonna donate the refreshments for the gathering. But he said he was happy to do the pay for the clocks through the mayor's fund, so.
do you want to, it's not on the agenda, but do you want to present the mayor's letter? Because in the
Yes.
process, you also invited.
Yeah. Last meeting, we did invite the mayor. I reached out. He was unable to attend. But he did send us a letter, and I will read that to you now. Dear members of the committee, thank you for the invitation to attend your meeting on August 21st. I'm sorry I can't be there due to scheduling conflicts. I do want to take this opportunity to thank you for your work in these times when fears of the other seem to be spreading across the globe. I'm proud to be the mayor of a city where holding the door open to all is central to who we are. The work of citizen volunteers in support of all the issues around which blue ribbon committees are built is critical to Portsmouth's success. Your work strengthening the bonds of our sister and friendship city relationships is incredibly important because it is those people-to-people connections that allow us to clasp hands in the friendship that lives up to our motto as a city of the open door. It is especially important to me that the values of our sister city agreements are championed by our students, demonstrating our commitment to ensuring our graduates are global citizens. The exchanges with Sant'Angelo and Nichinan and other partners are examples of these exchange participants described as life-changing experience and bonds that create are priceless, enriching our community. I know this is a significant year for our historic sister city relationship with Nichinan as we celebrate 120th treaty anniversary, the 40th anniversary of our sister city agreement, and even the 170th birthday of Nichinan's Baron Kumura. Gotta get that down. The man who came to Portsmouth in 1905 hoping to end a war and left with a treaty that had been fostered by the citizen diplomacy that is part of our city's DNA. Your work with Nichinan, Sant'Angelo, Portsmouth, England, and our other 6 international relationships keep that tradition forward, keeps the kind of hope Baron Kumura carried and hope that it holds the door open alive. Thank you. I invite you to attend and look forward to seeing you at the mayor's reception for Nichinan on Thursday, September 4th at 10:30 in City Council chambers and the Portsmouth Room. Best regards, Mayor Daigle McBride. So obviously the mayor's visiting from September 3rd to September 6th.
And I have the latest I know about what they're doing while they're here, which changes daily. So good news is they have their own transportation. They have hired a van and a driver. So they will be able to get around, they'll be able to get here, but then there's a film showing Wednesday night for kind of a mini reunion of the Portsmouth Peace Treaty Anniversary Committee, who were involved in creating all of the events and programs in 2005. So that's at 6 o'clock in the library. I'm gonna try to get the interviews. The film is 27 minutes interviewing 20 people who were involved in those events. And I have a transcript of what they're saying, which I will send to Jose Gonzalez in the mayor's office in Nichinan, who is our liaison and is an American and speaks both English and Japanese happily. So at least he'll be able to fill in what's happening with this film, but because they announced that they were arriving on Wednesday and there's this treaty-related event, we kind of couldn't not invite them. So that's Wednesday night. They actually come into Boston on Tuesday evening. In the morning on Wednesday, they're at the Consul General's in Boston, then they come here. Then Thursday morning, and this is all detailed here, Thursday morning, Joe Gluckert, the historian at the shipyard, is going to pick them and me up at their hotel in Navy Transportation. We'll go to the shipyard and tour the treaty rooms. And then we'll go to the John Paul Jones House for the treaty exhibit, and then he will drive us here for the 10:30 reception. At which point he has to go back to the shipyard. So I will have the van and driver meet us here at City Hall. And my thought is that they really didn't have anything scheduled for the balance of Thursday. But I figured I would invite them to lunch and a tour at Wentworth. So I should coordinate with you, Mary Carey, but I have a collection of pictures of the delegates in 1905 on the porch and in the public spaces of Wentworth. And I'll take them to lunch. And then I have to be back here by 4 o'clock for a meeting. So I said, we'll be back in Portsmouth by 3:30. And they said, actually, could we leave Wentworth at 2:30? Because we're supposed to be at the high school at 3 o'clock. Neither I nor Steve Knosy has any idea what they're doing at the high school at 3 o'clock. And it may simply be because Steve met the mayor in Nishinon in April and he just wants to see it. But Steve was gonna do some digging and see if he can find out.
Doing it. pretty quick.
Exactly. So that's the plan for Thursday. Friday, the Consul General has invited the group to go to Concord for a small ceremony that is being arranged by the Speaker of the House of the New Hampshire Legislature in executive council chambers, and then there's a luncheon following, so they will be at that. I am not attending that event. They will come back here by 3:15 for the bell ringing ceremony. That program, which is very informal, standing in Market Square in front of the Piscataqua Savings Bank, starts at 3:15 with the reading of the governor's proclamation by Mayor McEachern. And then we have letters from members of our congressional delegation that are read often by someone from their office. The Consul General will make a few remarks. The mayor of Nishinon has asked with some concern, do I have to say something? We said, no, that's okay. If you have remarks at the mayor to mayor reception, that's fine, that's taxing enough. So he's fine with that. And then after we get through those brief remarks and letters, it's 3:47 and we hear the whistle from the shipyard, and that's the signal, that's the moment that the treaty was signed, and all the bells of Portsmouth start to ring. And I have little bells for attendees to ring. So we'll do that and then they're done. And originally they were talking about leaving Portsmouth on Saturday morning, and now they're leaving Portsmouth by 5:00 on Friday. So that's the extent. They're a little at loose ends Thursday night, but I figure if they have lunch at Wentworth, that's substantial. And they don't have a driver after 5:00. So, and they're at the Port Inn. So there's not a lot else that we can take them to. We had floated the idea of getting tickets for the Veterans Count event at Keys Friday night, which might have lost a little in translation. But they can't go to that now anyway. So I have explained to Ben that we don't have to worry about that, which is fun. So that's that visit. Questions?
No, we just give them all the DoorDash recommendations, cause they're gonna be exhausted.
Yeah, exactly.
Between the travel and the parties and the statements and the travel in-state, I think Thursday night they'll be really happy to not have to do anything.
Yeah. No, thank you, Stephanie. This is a lot and obviously it's hard to communicate with all the different parties involved, so I really appreciate getting this all organized and
Okay. They also did all of their security forms for the shipyard
Yeah.
because you need to fill out a form and
Yeah.
you need to send a scan of your passport and you need to do that a month in advance. And they asked every possible question there was to ask about the form, which in their defense, the form is generic, whether you're a US citizen applying for a job at the shipyard or just a US citizen, or you're a foreign national. So there are lots of boxes that were irrelevant, but there's nothing on this official form that says, if you aren't a US citizen, ignore this.
To question 19.
So they were worried about that. I got all that done 3 weeks ago and sent me an email on Monday that said, oh my God, for whatever reason, we mistakenly said that we were flying in through Dulles, not Boston. Do we need to redo all the forms? So I emailed Joe Glukert and he said, we could deal with that on this, not a problem. Thank God.
Yeah.
So they're all set, as much as they're going to be. And so the mayor's reception, I'm preparing remarks for Mayor McEachern. The Nishinon mayor will have his remarks, we'll have the gift exchange, all of that will happen in chambers. And then we'll have the reception in the Portsmouth room. And I had a conversation with Joanna Deemer about, what we need for tables and setup for everything. We'll need the podium and, a ceremonial backdrop, making it official in Chambers, and then the reception in the Portsmouth room because we can't do a reception in Chambers. So that will be fine. And I know you and Christine are working on making it more than white paper tablecloths. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, yep, so Wednesday night, they'll be in the Levinson room,
Mhm.
right, watching the Portsmouth Peace Treaty Anniversary Committee film.
Yep.
Is there anything we need to?
Everyone is
Anything more we
invited
need to
to
do for that?
attend any and all of these. Obviously, the mayor's reception is kind of the official moment. I have extended the invitation to Zach McLaughlin because one of the visitors is the superintendent of education, Tisha. So he's gonna try to be here for that. And I don't know what your schedule is, because one of the other people is the chair of the Sister City Committee in
Yep.
Michigan, so you're the counterpart for that.
Yeah,
if you're
I can,
available.
yeah, I'm available. I can be there.
Terrific.
I can be there Wednesday night at 6, and then obviously I'll be there for the reception.
And then the bell ringing is the bell ringing, and you're all welcome to get a little bell. It's really amazing when all of the church bells, because of course they're out of sync. So you hear one and then another starts and another starts, and it's really cool. Even after 20 years, it's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. No, I agree. I remember going last year and the year before, and you hear the North Church,
Yeah.
and then you hear the St. John's, then you hear, and it's cool. But I encourage everyone to attend as many events as you can. Should I invite the city council formally?
Joanna is doing it.
Perfect. Perfect. The only other thing, the gifts for the visitors, so that we have the mayor's reception Thursday, September 4th at 10:30. Carrie Foley, Christine, do you guys need any more help with getting the refreshments or?
Refreshments were good, and I'm coordinating with Joanna in terms of logistics.
Yeah,
But I don't know about the gifts.
yeah.
So the guy with the clocks has said he's fine with, Joanna has the city credit card to give him and it would be happy to do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But he said on pickup is fine, so we'll arrange that. I have volunteered to pick up the clocks. I'm not sure exactly where he is. I think he's in Rye. But I have offered to pick them up, and Joanna and I were talking about gift wrap, because of course the Japanese always wrap things elaborately, but they need to go back through customs and the
Yeah.
airport and all
Yes,
that.
yeah.
So the thought is, the small clocks should fit in the mayor's gift bags that have the city seal on them. They're the color of Rich's shirt. And have the gold
Gold.
seal on them. And then the bigger clock for the mayor may need a slightly larger bag, and Joanna was gonna check on that because I gave her the dimensions. So the gifts will be ready and on a table in Chambers for the exchanging of gifts. And I probably should map out just a short program. And tell me what you think. It's logical to me that Mayor McEachern would welcome them and have the first remarks and then invite the mayor of Nishinan to speak. And that's really all, and then, we'll engineer the gift exchange and then the refreshments. And I don't see this as going on very long. I'm thinking an hour, but
I
Yeah,
was gonna say, it looks like an hour on here.
yeah. I can't imagine that it would be longer than an hour. We'll get pictures and I'll make sure Monty is getting some pictures.
so do we need to do anything else with the clocks or like contact the?
I'd been in the loop with him, I think his name's Paul, about that Joanna's gonna pay for them, and I said, I'm happy to pick them up, and he hasn't answered yet, but I'll pick up on that. I'm actually thinking, so we have the governor's proclamation for the bell ringing. Maybe it makes sense for our mayor to have a proclamation that honors Cumorah and the 40th anniversary and the 120th, that he can then hand to the mayor of Nishinan to take home. So I can work on that.
I think that would be. They would appreciate it.
Christine, you are contemplating all the aspects of that.
No, I was contemplating something else. I was contemplating the bells. And if there was any way we could get engraved bells for them.
Not by then, but I do have slightly larger bells. And I will share the story that I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was the year that the ministry gave Portsmouth an award for all the treaty things we've done. We had a bell that we presented at a luncheon at Wentworth to the mayor of Nishinan, and he picked it up and moved it, and the clapper fell out.
Okay.
So, but I do have nicer bells for the 7. Cause some of the bells, as I just discovered that I needed more, it's not as easy to get little bells as it used to be before tariffs and China trade blocks and whatever, but we have bells.
And the 7 people that we're getting, are they all getting gifts, or we're giving the mayor a big one and the other 6 a smaller buck? So that would be Mayor of Nichinan, Toru Takahashi, Superintendent of Education, Masafumi Toko, City Council President, Koichi Chiro Itagawa, Sister City Friendship Association Chair, Shotaro Hidaka, and Nichinan City Section Manager, Munehiro Mizumoto, and Nichinan City General Administration Assistant Manager, sorry, Mikio Hori. And Nichinan City Coordinator of International Relations, Jose Luis Gonzalez.
Correct.
Okay, cool. I'll have to work on those names, my pronunciation.
Did you send me those?
I may not have, but
Yeah.
I will. The record. I keep transferring the mayor of Nishinan and the consul general, and because the consul general is Takashima and the mayor is Takahashi, and
Yeah,
I don't know why I have such a hard time remembering, but anyway.
no, that sounds excellent. If there's anything last minute that comes up, my only worry was if we hadn't talked to the clock guy and it was gonna take too long.
No, he,
I'm glad to hear that we're focusing too on what we wrap them in, because my research in Japanese gift giving, there was very much, what we wrap it in is just as important as the gift.
Yeah.
And they're very much the formal ceremony, and it it's.
Right.
It goes, it's a little different than our culture, obviously. But no, that all sounds excellent. So any other comments on that stuff? Next, we had a list of gifts for the future. I just tried to brainstorm just, quickly. I know the Portsmouth Historical Society has their shop. They have lots of fun Portsmouth stuff. They have like coasters with, like the same kind of map of the Portsmouth Harbor that are like wood and plexiglass. They have kitchen tea towels that have a map printed on them. They have an oven mitt with a map printed on it. I thought it was kind of funny, magnet water bottle. Then I also thought of the new Portsmouth, New Hampshire store. It's just like sweatshirts and clothing and everything that just says Portsmouth. They're where the Life is Good store was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then mainly New Hampshire. In my head, I was like, oh, they might have some local things. And then off the top, I just thought of locally made soap and maple syrup as like things that could possibly be you can take back home with you.
And we should check with Steve Canosi and or Laura LaValle, because they always make suggestions for the kids who go on the exchange trip as for gifts for their home stays. And saltwater taffy is a big deal. And they have, but T-shirts and caps and the kinds of things you'd think. I did find the photograph that I took in the mayor's office in Nishinon that has a display case like ours with everything we've given them in the past, including the various treaty prints. There's the one of the ships arriving in the harbor, that's a Chris Ward painting. There is a poster, I wasn't sure they had this, but they do. It's a poster of Wentworth by the Sea when they were trying to save Wentworth. So they have that. There is the logo for the 100th anniversary, which is the dove, that is a print. They have that. They have the Japanese translation of a book that Peter Randall wrote called There Are No Victors Here, which is all about the treaty based on a collection of photographs. So they have the Japanese translation of that. What they don't have are the 101 Objects book from the 400th, or any of the other 400th books for that matter. So we have those as future options. I think the clocks would be great. It's a nice gift.
But no, that's important to make sure we're not giving the same gift and not giving them something that they already have. I'm often.
Very gracious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, thinking.
Cause I, of course, always see the gifts here that are out displayed in front of City Hall, but I also, the football team, when we watch film, we go in the little theater, the Nichinan Theater at the high school. So it's got it's got one display case and it's got a bunch of photos on the wall. And then like a couple of the pillars are wallpapered with newspaper from Nichinan, and yeah, so it's cool that there's, you know, I get to see it there and here. And in my head, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna bring that this time, you know what I mean? Like, I hope they bring something different.
There are amazing lamps in the mayor's office. They're made out of Obi cedar, which is native to Nishinan. They make all kinds of things out of the cedar, but they're beautiful contemporary swirl lamps. They're gorgeous. Anyway, So-
Anyone else have any gift ideas?
as we document them, we'll document that
Yeah.
we're giving them clocks this time, so that then we have
Yeah.
an ongoing list.
But something to
Thanks,
think
Scott.
about, you know, like, were we planning on giving any gifts with the students come? Is that,
So, yes, we typically have the mayor give each student a bag with, I think, I have to ask Joanna if she's planning a doorstop for the mayor this time. But we give them a T-shirt and I wanna say a picture, a small book
yep,
with pictures of Portsmouth in the little mayor's office gift bags. And I think we put the doorstop, the City of the Open Door doorstop. Sometimes the mayor uses his challenge coin, which he might with the mayor. But I don't know if he'll do that with all of the guests. But yes, there is, as part of the schedule, whenever we find out when that is, other than the first week of October, that the students are coming from Nishinan, part of that visit is to come over here and to meet the mayor and to crowd into his office for a photo, and then come down here for this gift distribution.
all right. All right, next item will be the bell ringing Friday the 5th. Address that. Part of Piscataway Savings Bank, hopefully it's good weather.
Yeah, it's rain or shine, that event.
So then we have the student visit October dates. First, Nichinan, under my notes, I know Steve's on here. I have written October 11th to the 18th, 7 kids.
October, could you say that again?
October 11th to the 18th,
And how many kids?
7.
7 kids from Nichinan.
Nichinan, yes. Forget how many adult counterparts.
That's a smaller group than usual.
That's, yeah, and this isn't from my notes, but I haven't been in contact with them.
And
This is-
it's a longer time. They're usually here for like 3 days.
That might be their whole US thing, 11 through
Yeah, that's right.
18. It might be their whole trip
Yeah.
and they're only here.
And
Yeah.
and do your notes say Sant'Arcangelo after that or before
Before.
that?
Four, it says 4 to the 11th, or October 4th to the 11th.
And that was a bigger group than usual, I think, wasn't it?
And that might have been. Yeah, I'm hoping these dates aren't from last year. Mixing up,
Find out soon.
yeah, but they were the only notes I have on.
Okay.
Students visiting. And then I just, just jotted down like any sort of welcome reception, gift speeches, food and beverage. I'm just thinking out loud. Is any of that gonna be necessary for those two?
Floated the idea with this group of inviting anyone who has been to Nishinan on one of the homestay visits as a sort of reunion when we do the welcome reception at the high school. Last year, the teachers organized, not sure what they did for Nishinan. I remember the one they did in the school library for Sant'Arcangelo. And some of the teachers just bought refreshments. And Steve was saying that they have started building a budget, recognizing that we don't have funds and we still don't have funds. That they have a line item in the budget for both of the visits that includes the transportation from Logan. But that's all I know about that. I don't know. I know that he also said that he had been meeting with teachers, Laura LaValle for Nishinan and Sam Tombarelli for Sant'Arcangelo, and that they were kind of driving the bus, not literally, for the visits, but I have no details. A little bit more time before they
Yeah.
go up.
Yeah,
Do we invite those ladies to our next meeting in September?
That'd be good. Yeah, I mean, especially if Steve can't make it. And sadly, of course, Steve is leaving us at the end of the school year. So we will pick his brain on this committee between now and then.
yeah.
So it was in the paper last week.
But I'm sorry, the teachers' names again, Laura, Lisa.
It's Laura LaValle and Samuel,
Laura has been doing this for a lot of years, right? So
more than 10, because she organized it when I went.
let's invite her.
Yeah.
to Next month's meeting.
Yeah, because she'll have all the details.
She'll have the details for the one trip she's responsible for.
Right.
The other one will have the
That's
details.
what I mean,
The other,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, she
They're
will
both
for
been a week.
Nishinan.
Yeah, and invite whoever is involved in, or a representative that can speak to both visits, yeah. I think that'd be very helpful. So that we can help them if there's some way, shape or form, right?
And can you handle that?
Sure.
Inviting them?
Yep.
Back to the reception, do we have any sort of a number yet?
So Christine and I,
Kind of noodled 30, but I think what you and I said 25 for food is probably enough, because just my experience has been people do not stuff their faces
No,
at
yeah.
these things, so I think it's
They're
still
not comfortable
fine.
eating because you're shaking hands and you're not gonna stand there. People don't get comfortable eating in those scenarios usually because you're shaking hands and you're constantly talking to people. And people don't want to put food in their mouth because they don't want to be rude. And
That's
they don't want to go stand in the corner and be like, well, I got cheese and crackers. I'm not talking to you, like.
But also some of the counselors probably can't come, probably some people that we invite that can't be there.
I get it, because it's hard because you have something to be welcoming.
I won't eat anything till the end.
Yeah, you want to be a good host.
I won't eat until the end. We'll see if there's anything
Me
left.
neither.
So I do have another, I found it on my notes, I have 18 Nichinon people and 18 San Angelo,
Okay,
so,
in October, okay.
yeah. I did find that, so that sounds,
All right, I will invite Laura and Sam and or whoever knows the details.
yes. All right, so we're on to Santa Cargelo. Student visit dates, we just talked about, October. The lighting art. So I did speak with the mayor. I know we chose to refer it to the Public Art Review Committee. His wishes were that it becomes part of the Von Mall redevelopment or the,
Yep.
you know, the redoing Von Mall, yeah, redesign. So that was his wishes. So as far as I understand, we're kind of, it's his gift, right? So it's his,
So is he okay with us giving the Public Art Review Committee all the information we have and saying that it's his thought it should be Von Mall and talk to him?
I get, yeah, I think that would probably be wise. I didn't know if he was saying like, that's great, you guys decided to give it to the Public Art Review, but I didn't. But yeah, that couldn't hurt just to over communicate.
We can,
know.
we could lob it to them, but our biggest question was where, and if he has a decided preference and that is a theoretical open opportunity. Terrence Parker's been working on the redesign of Von Mall, but it's not definite and it's not gonna happen for another year, cause they have to do all of the water pipes first. And then it's, Von Mall is also part of the Congress Street 2 lanes, cause we have to do water pipes at that end of Congress Street. So nothing's gonna happen with the design of Von Mall and the landscaping and all of the niceties for a year or more, which gives somebody, hopefully Park, the opportunity to explore the light. So at least if the mayor of Sant'Arcangelo happens to come back this October, I don't know that he is, we've done something about it.
Well, and giving them our mayor's preference to the committee gives them a starting point, right?
Yeah,
Instead of just saying, what do you wanna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, where
And
do you
then-
want?
Here's an idea.
Well, at least that way they can, if they have a recommendation, they can share it with the mayor, or if they have any like thing they know they've learned from hanging thing, you know,
Yeah, that's actually cool. Continuation of the arch in a way.
all right. Next, letter to Solnock Hungary.
It was sent.
Yeah.
And I do not have an answer yet.
Cool.
But I will share as soon as
Yeah.
I do have an answer.
No, that's good. We're doing our part and.
Took us a while to answer.
It did, right? Yeah. Like they didn't text us back. I'm gonna wait a day. All right.
It may become front and center if there's this trilateral meeting that's floated in Budapest.
Yes.
I'll be more gray than I am now when that happens. Okay.
Next up is the Portsmouth United Kingdom tour. Ben's not here
Not
from the
here.
chamber to give us any updates. I don't
It's
know.
in April, and I haven't seen details. He was-
See if it's.
We can keep that on the agenda for the next meeting and if Ben has any more information for us. Next, we have the update on Nelson, New Zealand. The mayor did accept our application to become Friendship City.
What?
Yeah, so,
Congratulations.
well done, everyone. We've done our part. It's now up to him to send it to the mayor of Nelson and wait for their response. So, but yeah, well done. We've completed our first,
First out.
international diplomacy.
First contact.
Yeah, right. First new friend.
Both made first
First new
contact.
friend, yeah. But no, I appreciate everyone and all the effort and yeah, all the work that went into that. Next, we have new business. We have review and approval of minutes from past meetings.
We need to, Christine and I need to get those in some form to all of
Over
you.
this
Yeah.
table, all over this table, I think, just like bring it all. in.
Yeah.
Own it. it's basically the formality of approving them. But I think if we send them to you in one packet that you can look through as bedtime reading.
See where we lied, yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna put little sneaky things in, like in the middle of page 2.
Yeah, just to see if it's gonna
It's
like,
gonna be a, you know, where's Waldo?
kind of be like a councilman, or a
Something about the
councilor.
chocolate chip cookies.
No. Yeah, so we can keep that on the agenda for next month, and hopefully get that sent out to each member, and they can review it themselves on their own time, and we'll do the care of that next month. Next, we have contact from Carrickfergus, East Antrim, Northern Ireland. Visit to Portsmouth, October 6th to 16th.
And it turns out
McGee's.
Actually, not the 6th.
they will be here the 9th and 10th.
Okay.
So they'll be in New Hampshire for that whole time, but they're here in Portsmouth. Alan McGee is the son of Noel McGee. You must remember him, Bob, who set up or was part of setting up the sister city relationship with them. You were probably out carousing at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure I met him. A lot of things that happened in Carrickfergus are kind of hazy.
And that will stay in Carrickford. But the city manager was checking her calendar, so we'll do something while they're here.
So
I'm not sure what.
Joanna wrote just before our meeting that they have reserved the Portsmouth room and the council chambers for 5 PM on the 9th.
Great.
And asked that, Joanna asked that I mention to Bob and Mary Carey that we will need them for this visit.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. The 9th of October. But other than that, we don't have, I think Joanna's been writing back to him to get.
Yeah, what would you like to do? Here are some, we can do here are some suggestions and, you know, tell stories and
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, both of you probably have a better sense of what we might do that would really appeal to them. We actually had, for the 400th, the mayor, no,
Yeah.
was she the
She
Lord
was the
Mayor?
mayor. I
Yeah,
think she was.
of East Antrim did come for the 400th. So that formality is there. She had a great time, great relationship. Should check who all she connected with, just so we can invite them on the 9th. But think about, you know, where would we wanna take them? What would we wanna
Yeah,
do?
what would be meaningful to? And is there somebody else we should include off this committee? Anybody that went over, that's still around, that's been over there on a trip?
There are plenty of people
Yeah,
around.
And I'm
On what?
thinking
was it? Okay.
in terms of historic sites, we can plan a visit to the John Paul Jones house since he attacked Carrickfergus. And there's a pardon from
feeling.
Carrickfergus hanging in the front hall that says, "We forgive you for stealing Lady Selkirk's silver and returning it to her." But John Paul Jones, there's that quilt out here that Carrickfergus gave us. Of course,
Yeah.
the fact that we have it hanging next to our ATM machine is not the most ceremonial, but
Right.
so at least it's in a heavily trafficked zone outside the city clerk's office.
Mhm.
So we've got a little time to, certainly at our next meeting, we could get some more details. But I'm glad Joanna has it scheduled for
She has what rooms, Christine? The ports?
the chambers.
Chambers and the Portsmouth room right outside it.
Oh, okay.
Where we're gonna be for the
Yeah.
H&N visit.
And again, we have to figure out what gift. Yeah. And I need to do remarks from there.
Okay, list of public comment. Is there, unless there's anything else you want?
I have one other thing to share for you to review. So we can talk about it next time. Nishinon, the contact in the mayor's office has told us that there is a gentleman who, as I remember, was connected with the schools. He's basically his own thing, but he wants to do a survey of Portsmouth High School students and Portsmouth Middle School students on how much they know about Nishinon and Baron Komora and the relationship and the treaty and all of that.
Sounds like a test.
Yeah, so this is the draft survey, which I think is way too intense for the middle school. And quite candidly, the middle school, all Portsmouth students learn about the treaty over the course of their education. But the focus on really understanding what it's all about isn't till high school. So I don't think he's gonna get great results, and I think that from our perspective, they would be embarrassing results from the middle school.
Yeah.
So the first thing is what you all think about the survey that you can read at your leisure, and then it strikes, so they were just gonna send it and ask me to whom it should go in terms of the principal, and I said, well, actually, first we should review it at the Sister City Committee, and then the Sister City Committee should make a recommendation potentially to forward this to our superintendent and have him determine whether it's something that he should delegate to Steve Canosi to pursue in the high school.
So this is the one they sent you. It includes people up to age 90. So was he,
Yeah, that's true, but he was specifically planning it for high school and middle school.
okay. I'm with you. I think high school, it doesn't make sense to give it to the middle school. That's,
Yeah, and I think it more should just be like a fun, hey, this is fun
Yeah.
facts, didn't you know? Not a, like, we're gonna test you and then, yeah, don't.
I mean, I think,
5% of PHS students were able to answer 5 of these questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, there's one very
Yeah.
specific leading question about what do you think we should do in terms of partners? in the
I like
future?
that.
I think that's a great question.
Have you ever
Um,
visited Japan? That's a
Yeah.
useful question.
And that makes me think that he's looking for how does he energize the relationship on his end, which would be a good thing. But this person, Mr. Sato, is the one who's putting together this survey, and he is not the person from the Sister City Committee who's visiting. So maybe it's possible while the gentleman from that committee, who is Mr. Hidaka, just seeing what he has planned for strengthening the relationship, which reminds me, I should put in the mayor's remarks, how important the relation, what we do to strengthen it.
And this says that the purpose of the survey is to inform future exchange activities. So you would think it would be from our counterpart.
Right.
But it's not.
No.
Be interesting to hear from our counterparts.
Yes. Yes, there was the suggestion that he had informed the principal of the high school, i.e. Steve. But I don't know that Steve knows anything about it. So yes, very right, then it should start with where the relationships already exist. We do have the divide between the public school in Nishinon is not the one that we do the exchanges with. It's a private school, which has been going on now for quite a long time. So that's where the bond is. That's where the knowledge and enthusiasm and the experience changed my life comments came. So look at it, and I will share with you or to you the original email that had a little bit more background on who it is who's trying to organize this. So we can
Can we
include that
wait
in
to
the minutes.
respond until after the Nichinon visit?
Yes, I think that especially since this all came through Jose, he's gonna be here. So we can respond verbally while he's there and try to get a better sense from him as to what this, how we can help.
Alrighty. My only issue, I might have a conflict for next meeting.
18th.
Yeah. Freshmen, they play on Thursdays now and I'm thinking if she,
It's gonna come in by Zoom, but
yeah. So I don't know if we,
can we do a different week?
yeah,
Same time?
so I can't do Thursdays, like for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't do 4 o'clock for any weekday for the next 2 months. You know, but I don't know if we wanna figure it out or if you guys wanna meet without me or,
Try to figure out
yeah,
something,
cause I know,
cause
you know, what I mean, I know you got school, Steve's got school.
So later is better for you, right?
Yes,
But I don't wanna-
later is better for me.
Schedule,
And you're not free at 4. Are you free at 5 or 5:30 or? you-
no, I'm
No.
free after 6,
Okay,
yeah,
so if I
but
send,
not on Thursdays.
if I
Thursdays
send
I'm
a
not-
doodle poll with lots of options
Yeah,
to the committee, would
yeah,
that-
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, I got practice 3:45 to 6 every day, and then we have games on Thursdays. So I might be getting off a bus at 9 o'clock, you know, what I mean,
Yeah.
on Thursday night.
Understood.
So most or a lot of city committees meet evenings. Would 6:15 work for you?
Yeah, if it
And
was on a
narrowing down the doodle poll, we could
Yeah.
figure out.
Monday, Tuesday, or, you know, Monday,
Right.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday,
Wednesday,
yeah.
yeah.
You
Monday,
can't do
Tuesday,
Wednesday, yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday after 6.
But I thought of that as we're especially.
Yeah.
Inviting people to the next meeting, I was like, I don't know what it is.
All right,
All
I'll
right,
send that out to
beautiful.
you guys.
All right,
Yep.
thank you, Christine. Anyone else have anything else?
Sure.
All right. Any public comment? Anyone on Zoom?
No
All right,
recording.
thank you very much. Thank you, Portsmouth.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.